Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be sharing all of my top romance recommendations. I love romance books, it's like one of the main genres that I read. So I have read a lot of good and a lot of bad romances in my day, and I'm just here to share my top romance recommendations, and I do have recommendations from every single genre. So I have some historical romances, I have some romantasy, and I have just some contemporaries and like sports romances. So hopefully if you're looking for a romance book recommendation, you'll be able to find something that is up your alley in this video. So first, I think I'm going to start with the one like standout that doesn't really have its own category because it's only just one book in this category, and that is Yona of the Dawn. This is a romance manga series and I am absolutely obsessed with it. Like, if you've been on my channel for any length of time, then you know how much I love Yona of the Dawn. In this one, you're following a princess who runs away from her kingdom after a tragic event happens, and she's on the run trying to escape with her bodyguard, and they stumble along some friends along the way, and they're just going on a lot of crazy adventures, and it's just such a cute found family. Like, they are the sweetest found family ever. Like, I love all of them so much. And then you have a slow burn childhood friends to lovers romance between these two, and it is just so good. Like, it's the slowest slow burn. Like, if you want an extreme slow burn romance, this will give it to you, because they don't kiss until like volume 20 something or 30 something. Like, it's crazy, and it's just so good. Like, if you want a romance series, it's so good. Like, if you want a romance manga series to just dive into with a whole new world, whole new characters, found family, there's some magic, and there's like fantasy elements to it, it is just so good. Like, I absolutely adore this series with my entire soul. It is still ongoing. It's currently on volume 40, I think, and there's no end in sight, and I'm so happy about it because I need more from all of these characters. Like, I love them all so much. Like, every single volume has been between 4 and 5 stars. There's been maybe like 1 or 2 volumes I've given just 3 stars, but even then those are still so good. Like, every volume in this series is just so good. Like, there's just so many good moments in each of these volumes. So I just highly recommend Yona of the Dawn. I feel like I couldn't make a recommendation video without recommending Yona of the Dawn, because this like makes up my entire channel, honestly. I love this series so much. So of course I have to talk about Yona of the Dawn. So next up, I have some historical romances, because I love me a good historical romance, and they are all by Miss Tessa Dare, the queen of historical romances. So the first one that I have is When a Scot Ties the Knot. In this one, you're following Madeline, who her parents want her to get married, I think, because you know how historical romances work with the whole Regency era. Her family wants her to get married, so they're trying to set her up with someone, and she tells them, oh, I'm actually already married. I'm married to this Scottish captain. And yeah, so she pretends that she's married to a Scottish captain. She's been writing letters to this Captain Mackenzie character, thinking that these letters aren't going anywhere. She doesn't know that there's an actual Captain Mackenzie, so she's just writing these letters, sending them off, and hoping they're gonna just go into the void. But little does she know, Captain Mackenzie is a real person, and he shows up one day at her doorstep and is like, I am here. I am Captain Mackenzie. You've been writing me all these letters. I'm here. I am real. And it's so silly. I don't know if I did a good job explaining it, but it's honestly just so good. Like, at the bottom of the synopsis, it says, the real Captain Logan Mackenzie arrives on her doorstep, handsome as anything but not entirely honorable. He's wounded, jaded, in possession of her letters, and ready to make good on every promise Maddie never expected to keep. So it's kind of like, not a marriage of convenience, but kind of like a marriage of convenience. and there's letters in this, and it's just the romance between these two is so good, and just seeing their development apart and together is just so good. Like, I recently read this one and I really enjoyed it. I have so many tabs, like it's just so good. It's so good. So if you want a Scottish historical romance, I highly recommend this one. And next up, I have a little series also by Miss Tessa Dare, and that is the Girl Meets Duke series. There's 4 books in this series, but only 3 of them are out so far. The first one is the Duchess deal. In this one, you're following the Duke of Ashbury and Emma, who is a seamstress. And it's been a while since I've read this one, but if I remember correctly, she shows up one day at his doorstep wearing this wedding dress, because I think the wedding was called off, but she shows up wearing this wedding dress and is like, you're gonna pay me for having made this wedding dress. And he's like, why would I do that? But they decide to play along as if they are married because he needs an heir. So she pretends to be his wife, and there's all of these conditions because he has some like trauma. So there's a lot of conditions that he has for this little setup, and it's just it's so good. Like, just the chemistry between them is honestly so good and just absolutely incredible. This is not my favorite out of the 3. This is probably my least favorite because it has like the Beauty and the Beast trope, because he has like scars all over his face and his body, and he's like a little bit grumpy, and you know, but it's still really good. Like, I really want to reread this one because it's really good. And then next up we have the Wallflower Wager. In this one, you're following Gabriel and Penelope. Penelope is a wallflower who is kind of a little bit quirky, a little bit different from the other girls because she has like a ton of animals in her house, and Gabriel moves in next door and wants to get rid of her animals. And obviously Penelope is not going to have any of this, so they have like this disagreement, and they end up working together to try to save her animals, something along the lines. I'm so sorry, I barely remember what happened in these. I read these like 1 to 2 years ago, so it's been a while, but I remember really enjoying this one. And again, the chemistry and just the tension and the writing in all of these books is just insane. Like, Tessa Dare knows what she's doing. Like, she knows how to write such a good historical romance, so this one I really enjoyed. And then my favorite out of the 3 is the Governess Game, and this one you're following Alexandra, who is an astronomer just trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life because her life is not going as she had hoped. So she stumbles upon Chase in his house one day and accidentally becomes the governess to his two children, his 2 like adopted children, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, she did not know that she was signing up to be a governess to these children. She has no governess experience. She doesn't know anything about what she's doing with these children, but she's just trying her best. And then we have Chase, who is kind of a player, kind of a man for the streets. He's just always sleeping around with people, but when Alexandra stumbles into his life, he kind of has a connection with her, but Alexandra knows about his reputation, so she kind of doesn't really want anything to do with him. But their chemistry and everything is just so sweet, and seeing their little relationship forming and their family relationship forming, like with the 2 children, is honestly so sweet. Like, seeing Alexandra and these children just bond together, and seeing all 4 of them bonding is just so sweet. And like, the children are so crazy, the children are insane, but they're so funny, and it's just so good. Like, it's just so good. So I absolutely love these books. I'm really excited for the 4th book to come out next year. But yeah, if you want a historical romance series where they're all like little companion books, because all of the girlies in this one, they're all best friends, and like, if you like those types of romance series where they're all companions and they're all like best friends with each other, then you're going to love this series. Like it's just so good. Like Tessa Dare just knows what she's doing with her historical romances. So I highly recommend any of these four if you want to dive into historicals but you haven't read any, because these were the first historicals that I read and they're really easy to get into. The language isn't super complicated or anything, so these are very good, like beginner friendly historical romances. And also if you're not a beginner, they're just so good. Like I absolutely love Tessa Dare. The next book that I have is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. In this one you're following our main character Piper, who is an influencer socialite in the LA world, and she's always going to parties and hosting parties, and one day she ends up getting arrested at one of these parties, and her stepfather decides that he's going to completely cut her off and say that he's no longer going to be entertaining her with all of these things that she likes doing, so he's going to completely cut her off and send her off to live in this small little fishing town called Westport, I believe. Yes. So he sends her off to live in Westport, no money, no family, like just send her off and just learn about what it means to, you know, be a person in this world that doesn't really have like a lot of influence, you know, like what it means to just be a regular person with no like influence or fame or any of this. Like just go live like a normal person, learn how to do all these things on your own, and just learn to be an independent person. And Piper obviously has no idea what she's doing. She's used to the glitz and the glamour and not doing things for herself, so she doesn't know how to like cook or clean or like do anything, you know, like typical like rich people problems. She doesn't know how to do any of that. And she one day stumbles upon Brendan, I think at this grocery store, and he is a fishing captain with his own boat and his own like team of fishermen, and they strike up a little bit of a romance, and it's very much like opposites attract, because she's like a rich socialite influencer and he's like a grumpy fisherman, and he decides to teach her the way of the people in this village or this town, the way that these people live and all of the relationships that these people have with each other and how close-knit they are as a community. And it's just so nice seeing Piper's development, because she has a huge character development in this book. She goes from being, again, this like rich influencer, super rich person that doesn't know how to do anything for herself, to learning about like the little things in life and the small things in life that are important. And it's just her character development is honestly so good. Like she just does a complete 180, and it is so good to see. And it's also so good to see how Brendan treats her and how he loves her because of who she is, not despite of all of these things. Like he doesn't want her to change, he doesn't want her to be someone that she isn't, but he still loves her for the things that other people did not love her for. And he's always spoiling her and buying her like so many gifts, because he knows that's what she likes, and he likes to spoil her and he likes to pamper her and treat her and take care of her. And it is just so good. So now let's get into some fantasy romance, and the first one that I have here is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This one is so good. Like the more that I think about this book, the more that I love it and want to reread it before the second book comes out. But anyway, in this one you're following our two characters, Iris and Roman, who are working at this newspaper, and they're both vying for the columnist position, but obviously they both can't have it, so there's kind of this academic rivals going on at the beginning, but does not last long. Like if you're looking for like an intense academic rivals, this will not give it to you. Like I was a little bit bamboozled when I read this one, because I was expecting it to be like full on academic rivals, but it doesn't last that long, so just like manage your expectations a little bit. But they are academic rivals for a little bit at the beginning, and then things happen, circumstances happen, and Iris ends up going off to write for one of the gods in this war, because there is this war going on between these two gods, and Iris ends up being part of the war effort and writing articles about what's going on in this war. And you know, Roman finds out about this, and it's just it's so good. Like, I don't want to give much away, but just know that it's so good. And they're also writing letters to each other during all of this time. Iris is writing letters to Roman, and Roman is writing letters to Iris, and Iris is pouring out all of her soul and heart into these letters, and she doesn't know that it's Roman that she's writing them to, but Roman knows that he's writing to Iris because of one of the things that is included in one of the letters. So just like, there's letter writing to each other, and I love a book with letters in it, and these letters are just so beautifully written, and in these letters they're starting to get to know each other better, and they're starting to fall for the other person, but they don't know that the person that they're falling in love with is the person that they are like already in love with in real life. Like, they don't know they don't know that they're writing to each other, and when they do realize that they're writing to each other, it's just so stunning. So many good scenes, so many beautiful moments, and the ending is just devastating. It's just so good. Like, the lyrical writing is beautiful, the relationship is so beautiful, and I just absolutely adored this one. Like, I really want to reread it before the last book comes out in December, because I really just want to highlight and annotate so many of the stunning scenes. So yeah, if you want like a lyrical, whimsical fantasy with a little bit of romance, then I highly recommend this one. It's so good. The next book that I have is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and this one you're following our main character Araya, who is a human living in a world full of vampires. Her father, who adopted her, is a vampire king, and she's been living amongst vampires ever since. She's the only human, I believe, living in this vampire world, and one day she decides to enroll in this tournament so that she can be granted a wish by the goddess Nyaxia. So she is in this competition. She is the only human, everyone else is a vampire, and one of her enemies, or like one of the people in this tournament, is Rain, who is another vampire, obviously, and they end up striking this little romance, and they form an alliance in this tournament, and they start working together, and the relationship starts to develop. It's just so good. Like, I don't know what the name of the trope is, like the alliance trope. I don't know what it's called. There's a name for it, but they reluctant allies. That's what it's called. So they are reluctant allies, and they end up forming this relationship, and it's just so good. Like, the chemistry between them is so good, and there's so many good scenes in this one. Like, the scene in the cave is forever ingrained in my mind. Like, that is one of the hottest scenes I've ever read in my entire life. Like, if you know, the scene in the cave is so good. So yes, if you want a vampire and human fantasy romance story, you're going to love this one. It's just so good, so action-packed, and the romance is so stunning. My all-time favorite fantasy romance that I have not talked about at all on my channel, I don't think, but this has become a new all-time favorite book for me, and that is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This book honestly makes me crazy. This book makes me feel insane. It's just so good. So in this one, you're following this exiled princess Elowen, who has a link to 5 dragons, and ever since they discovered that she has this link to these dragons, she was locked away and kept hidden away in the castle and was being tortured and abused. But then one day she decides to escape, and she forms her own secret kingdom hidden away from everyone else. So she has these people that she's taking care of, but she's having a hard time being able to feed them because she doesn't want to expose this kingdom to like the outside world. Like, she doesn't want anyone to know that this kingdom exists, so she wants to keep taking care of these people, but it's becoming increasingly harder for her to do that. So one day she strikes up a deal with Commander Caden and they agree to work together in a way that Elwyn will be able to get her dragons back, because the dragons are still locked away in the castle, but she was able to escape, but her dragons are still locked away. So she obviously wants to rescue her dragons, and she's working together with Caden to make this happen. And it's just so good. Like, the found family is so beautiful, and the relationship between Elwyn and Caden is honestly crazy. Like, this book made me feel so insane. This book made me feel like I was on drugs the entire time, because I literally could not stop giggling and blushing, and it's just like having physical reactions to Elwyn and Caden's interactions in this book. Like, there was not one single scene where I was not either giggling or blushing or just like having physical reactions to these two characters. It's just crazy. Their chemistry and the tension is just so good. Like, it's honestly insane. Like, ever since I read this book in August, I have not been the same person ever since, because yeah, this book changed me in a fundamental way. I am no longer the same person. I have not been able to read another book since then. I have been reading books, but they have not been as good as this. I have not had a 5-star book since I read this one in August. Like, this book put me in the most massive hangover / reading slump, because no book has ever been able to compete with this since I read it. Like, I don't know what Olivia Rose Darling put into this book, but she put drugs into this book, because I am obsessed, I am addicted, and just nothing has ever been the same. No other book has been able to make me feel the way that this book made me feel. Like, I don't know if I did a good job just describing the plot of it, but it's just so good. It's just so good. Like, just the found family with all of these characters, and then Caden and Elwyn and their relationship and their banter. The banter between them and between everyone else in this found family is so good. And just the way that Caden wants to protect her and is so protective of her, and the things that he does for her. I've been transferring my Kindle annotations from this into the physical copy, and I'm just having such a good time transferring my annotations. Like, I've been doing little doodles and drawings. Like, I've just been having such a good time annotating this one. And, like, I'm tempted to reread it, but I'm not going to, because I literally just read it. But this one here, she's like, a heist? Do you want to partner up with me to free 5 dragons? And he's like, precisely, Angel. And just exactly. Like, I don't know what else I can say about this book. You need to read it if you want a fantasy romance with dragons, found family, and an absolutely stunning romance. This will give it to you, because this has some of the most insane scenes I have ever read in my entire life. Like, the scene in the brothel and the scene in the bathtub. If you know, you know. Just, if you know, you know. Like, it's just so good. So good. So you need to read this book. This book did get picked up by a publisher, so if you want to get your hands on it before it's too late, now's your time, because I think at the end of the month this book is going to be out of print, out of existence, until it gets traditionally published next year with a new cover, new scenes, new things. So if you can wait, then you can wait until next year, or if you don't have the patience to wait to read this one, I highly recommend picking it up before it is too late. But it's just so good. Like, I can go on and on about this book, and I have, and I'm going to stop now, but absolutely adored this book. One of my new all-time favorite books. It's at the same level of Six of Crows for me, and that's saying something, because Six of Crows is my, like, all-time favorite series, and this is up there. So absolutely adored this one, and I'm going to stop talking about it. So next up, I have a sports romance series, and that is the Windy City series by Liz Tomford, the first book being Mile High. In this one, you're following Stevie and Xander. Xander is a hockey player, and Stevie is the flight attendant for this hockey team. So Xander has this bad boy reputation. In every city, he's always hooking up with someone new. Like, he has a list in his phone of different people that he hooks up with in every city. Like, he's that type of player, bad boy, like man whore type of thing. Like, he doesn't have the greatest reputation, but it's the reputation that's been making him all this money. So he has this reputation, and Stevie is a flight attendant on his airplane, and they don't exactly get along very well. They have their first encounter is not the greatest, so they just have this like bickering relationship, like this banter and just this like fun like dynamic, like I don't know, it's just so good. And I absolutely love seeing Xander's development in this one, because he does have this bad boy reputation, but when he's at home, he is a family man. He's taking care of his best friend's children or child. Like, he's just such a softie, and he has this caring personality, but he has to pretend to have this bad boy reputation when he's playing the game. But then once he's at home, he's the biggest family man, softie, just the sweetest guy ever. And just seeing him grapple with his reputation and no longer wanting to be the person that he has been all this time is just so interesting. And just seeing the way that his relationship develops with Stevie is so good. And they have so many beautiful scenes and just absolutely stunning. Like, this book is like 500 pages, but it's so worth it because you can really see Stevie developing as her own character and going through her own personal struggles. And then you see Xander also developing and going through his own personal struggles, and seeing that the way that they come together and the way they complement each other and the way they take care of each other is just so good. So I absolutely love this one. But my favorite one is the second book, The Right Move. Just exactly. So in this one, you're following Ryan, who is Stevie's twin brother from the first book. So in Mile High, you're following Stevie and Xander's, and this one you're following Ryan and Indy. So Ryan is Stevie's twin brother, and Indy is Stevie's best friend. Best friend's brother romance, exactly. Ryan is the captain of the NBA team. Exactly. So basically the premise of this one is you have Ryan, who is the captain of the basketball team, and he has a reputation of not really going out on dates, not being seen with anyone, not hooking up with people, not going to parties. He just goes home to his apartment and just minds his own business. Like, he doesn't really have a like persona or like a reputation the same way that Xander's does. He has the complete opposite of that. He doesn't have any sort of reputation, but when he is approached by his manager saying that he does not approve of his promotion to captain because he doesn't have a work-life balance, he doesn't have that same motivation that the other people of the team have, Ryan decides to lie to him and say that he has a girlfriend, so that his manager can believe that he is like a family man and has a life outside of basketball. He decides to lie and say that he has a girlfriend, and that girlfriend being Indy. So they have to fake date so that his manager can believe that he has a life and is a sociable person. And then we also have Indy, who doesn't have a place to live anymore because her boyfriend cheated on her, so she is out on her own figuring out where she's going to live when Stevie decides to offer up Ryan's apartment because he has an extra room and he's obviously not using it, so Indy can go live in his spare room. But Ryan doesn't like anyone being in his space. He's really controlling, and he does not approve of Indy being in his space, but he wants to help out his sister and, please his sister, so he decides to go along with it and agree to having Indy live in his apartment. But Indy also needs a fake date because she is part of this wedding and her ex-boyfriend is in this wedding, so she doesn't want to show up without a +1. So they end up fake dating for Indy's wedding, or the wedding that Indy is going to, and then they end up fake dating at a bunch of different events for Ryan, so his manager can see that he has a girlfriend. But yeah, so they end up fake dating, and then obviously they end up falling for each other, and just the way that Ryan takes care of Indy, like his acts, like his love language is acts of service, and just seeing all of the things that he does for her, it's just so good. Like, it's so good. Like, I absolutely adore this book so much. It's just so good. Like, this is my favorite out of the 3. And the third one is Caught Up. In this one, you're following Kai, who is a baseball player who suddenly ends up becoming the father of a 6-month-old child who he did not even know existed. Like, one day the mother of this child shows up at his doorstep, leaves this baby with him, and just pieces out. So he's suddenly, all of a sudden, a single dad, just not knowing what he's doing, just trying to raise this son. Like, he has no idea what he's doing, but he's trying his best, and he's always firing nannies because he doesn't think that any of these nannies can properly take care of his son. So he's always going through so many different nannies because he doesn't trust anyone to take care of his son. But then one day his coach ends up finally getting fed up with him firing nanny after nanny after nanny, and he says, you know what, you know who's going to be your new nanny? My daughter, and you can't fire her. So his new nanny is his coach's daughter. So Miller becomes the new nanny to his son, and Miller is this high-end pastry chef, always going to different restaurants and fixing up their menus, and she all of a sudden becomes really burnt out being in this field. So since she's taking a break for the summer, she's going to be taking care of Kai's son, and they end up forming a beautiful little family and a beautiful little relationship. And just, again, the way that these characters develop is so satisfying to see, because you can see Miller really starting to battle with what she wants to do with her life, like whether or not she wants to continue with this really intense career where she's always on the road, or if she wants to finally settle down and start a family. And then you have Kai trying to come to terms with the fact that he is a single dad, but he can still have a life outside of that. Like, his life doesn't need to just revolve around his son. He's allowed to go out and have fun with his friends. And just seeing them develop together and apart is, again, just so satisfying. Like, the way that Liz Tomford writes these romances is so good, because these characters really do develop on their own, but then they also develop together as a couple, and it's just so satisfying and so nice to see. Like, I just absolutely adore all of these books, and I cannot wait for the 4th one to come out next year. Like, these books are just so good. Like, absolutely adore all 3 of these, but my favorite one is The Right Move, because Ryan is just like the book boyfriend, like the most perfect book boyfriend. Like, his love languages and just everything is just so stunning. Like, I absolutely adore The Right Move, but all of these are so good. I highly recommend any of these 3. So the last books that I have to talk about are the Love Light series by B.K. Borison, the first one being Love Light Farms. In this one, you're following Stella, who owns a Christmas tree farm that isn't really doing well. So many things are going bad, money isn't great, and she wants to help save this Christmas tree farm, so she decides to enroll in this social media competition where you win a cash prize if you end up winning. And in order to make her Christmas tree farm seem more appealing, she decides to lie in the application and say that she runs this Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend, which she does not have a boyfriend, but she does have her long-term best friend Luca, who she decides to ask for help. So they're fake dating and pretending to be dating for this competition, because it makes it seem more appealing. Like, it's really romantic that, you know, you run this Christmas tree farm with your boyfriend, and the host of this competition is like a huge romantic, so they're fake dating and just, again, falling for each other as the story goes on. Since they have been friends for such a long time, they already have this connection and this understanding of each other, but just seeing the way that their relationship and their feelings form from being platonic friends to something more romantic is just so good. I just absolutely adored this one. The second book in this series is In the Weeds, and in this one you're following Evelyn, who is the social media host from the contest in the first book, and she's hosting this competition when suddenly she realizes that one of the people that works on this farm is one of the people that she had a one-night stand with a while back, and they thought that they were never going to see each other ever again, but suddenly they're working in very close proximity and they end up striking a romance, and it's just so good. Like, I don't know how to describe any of these books besides just saying that they're so good. And then we have the third book, Mixed Signals, which is my favorite out of the three of them. In this one you're following Layla, who owns a bakery on the Christmas tree farm property, and she's been going on all of these dates and just trying to find love, but all of these dates have been going so horribly wrong. So her friend Caleb decides to say, hey, why don't we pretend to go on a bunch of dates so that we can figure out why all of your dates are going so wrong and figure out like what you are looking for from a partner. So they are like fake dating and going on all of these dates and just trying to learn more about the other person, but they inevitably end up falling for each other. Yeah, it's just so sweet. Like, Caleb is the absolute sweetest person, and just seeing their relationship develop is so sweet, and seeing Layla realize that she isn't the problem in all of these dates going horribly wrong, and realizing that she does deserve a happy and healthy relationship is just so heartwarming and so nice to see, and it's just so stunning. Like, all three of these books are absolutely stunning. I love all of them, but again, my favorite is Mixed Signals. I love these companion series because they're all following, like, they're all best friends with each other, and they all live in this small town. So in the other books there's cameos from the characters in the other ones. You can see the way that their relationship has continued after their book and how they're still thriving and prospering and doing so well in like the following books. And just seeing those little cameos and seeing all of these characters being so tightly knit and so closely bonded with each other is just so sweet. Like, it's just like the cutest small town romance companion series. Like, I absolutely love all of these books. And yeah, that is actually all that I have to talk about. Believe it or not, I have been blabbing forever about these books. I don't know if anything that I said for any of these books makes any sort of sense, but yeah, so those are all of the romance book recommendations that I have. I hope you're able to find something that interests you in any of these books, because I have a little bit of everything, like a little bit of every sort of subgenre of romance. So hopefully you are able to find something that's right up your alley, and hopefully one of these books becomes your new favorite, because these are definitely some of my favorite books. So hopefully you love them as much as I did. If you have any recommendations for some more romance books, leave them in the comments down below, because I'm always trying to find new romances because it's my absolute favorite genre. So leave any recommendations down below. If you're gonna read any of these books, let me know down below, or if you've read any of them already, let me know what you think. Do we have the same thoughts and feelings? I would love to know. But yeah, so those are all of my romance book recommendations. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!